The Southern Poverty Law Center just got caught red-handed. Tyler O'Neill dropping receipts this morning that expose their dirty secret, direct ties to Antifa organizations. The same organization that painted Charlie Kirk as hate has been harboring violent radicals on their payroll. One employee was profiled as Antifa's secret weapon. Another lawyer got arrested at a Molotov cocktail riot. They've been running cover for domestic terrorists while targeting soccer moms, and now President Trump is about to bring the hammer down. The executive order is now officially signed. Antifa's terrorist designation happened moments ago. Chuck Todd is already panicking on air. The radical left's protection racket is collapsing. The evidence is overwhelming, so stay tuned. Now, right now, violent extremists are organizing in the shadows while the so-called watchdogs protect them. And that's why it's crucial to protect what you have built. A 2025 study found that over half of U.S. adults are concerned about how fast their skin is aging. 40% fixated on random wrinkles and dark spots. If that sounds like you, you're not alone. More and more people are noticing visible changes in their skin far earlier than expected. That's why I use my secret anti-aging weapon, and I'm obsessed with the changes I've noticed in my skin. Provides my skin with the 5 must-have types of premium collagen needed to help reduce wrinkles. Since I've started taking it, experienced smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer fine lines, and a more youthful glow. Plus, it mixes smoothly with my morning coffee. No taste or clumps. Be sure to grab a bag of ageless multi-collagen now, plus 51% off at healthwithgary.com, and help take years off the clock. And by ordering now, you'll also guarantee to get free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled 14 Amazing Skin Foods for Skin, and 60-day satisfaction guarantee. Free shipping. Once again, website healthwithgary.com. And we thank them for supporting this show. So this just in, we got the email from the White House, published it right away. The breaking news victory, President Trump has officially designated Antifa a domestic terror organization. After years of riots, assaults, doxing, and armed standoffs, Antifa now formally recognized as a domestic terror threat. Federal agencies are ordered to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle. Here is the official order that was put forth by the White House. Section 1, Antifa is a militarist, anarchist enterprise that explicitly calls for the overthrow of the United States, law enforcement authorities, and our system of law. It uses illegal means to organize and execute a campaign of violence and terrorism nationwide to accomplish these goals. This campaign involves coordinated efforts to obstruct enforcement of federal laws through armed standoffs with law enforcement, organized riots, violent assaults on immigration and customs enforcement and other law enforcement officers, and routine doxing of other threats against political figures and activists. So this is just the beginning, but of course, Brian Krasenstein, he is already triggered, and he has officially come out. Now, we did make a post about this the other day. He tweeted that he is Antifa. Now, apparently, he is declaring. If you don't know who this guy is and why we're even bothering paying attention to him, it's because he makes a lot of noise on X, and he gets a lot of traction. So people are always replying to him, and he's always just in the comments. He's a troll. He's a left-wing troll. And he's here again. He says, I am Antifa. This is 60 minutes ago. I am Antifa. Anti-fascist. He tries to explain away, like, oh, it's just an idea. I'm against fascism. Yeah, I'm against fascism. You know, we're all against fascism, you know? But that's not what these people are. These people are radical Marxist communists who are trying to overthrow the government. All right? So I get what you're trying to say, Brian.
Antifa. Raise your hand if you're Antifa, meaning that you're against fascism, anti-fascism. This is something every American should be. Antifa, anti-fascist. Raise your hand if you're...
Yeah, see, he's trying to dilute the terrorists who are out there in the streets fighting, like literally fighting against our law enforcement, burning down buildings, destroying stuff. I mean, like here, how's this? An old woman wearing a Be Kind shirt tries to decapitate a Trump effigy. Now, I'm not saying... Yeah, the tolerant left, everybody. I'm not saying she's Antifa, but I'm sure she could go ahead and put on a balaclava and, firebomb a Starbucks. Okay, so the disturbing ties, Tyler O'Neill, if you don't know who he is, he's the senior editor at the Daily Signal. He made this thread, and we're going to run through it real quick. The Southern Poverty Law Center, which put Turning Point USA on a hate map with chapters of the Ku Klux Klan a few months before Kirk's assassination, has disturbing connections to Antifa. Now, Southern Poverty Law Center, if you don't know who they are, they have targeted myself, websites I've run in the past. They labeled me as Patriot number 9 on their Patriot hit list. This was years ago. They used to run articles about me all the time. Of course, they turned their sights onto Charlie Kirk when his organization started becoming effective. These are quite relevant as Trump investigates Antifa, so they should connect back to Southern Poverty Law Center. SPLC gained its reputation by suing KKK groups into bankruptcy. It now publishes a hate map that plots mainstream conservatives and Christian groups alongside the Klan. This map inspired a terror attack in 2012. SPLC advised the Biden administration on domestic terror.
And I can tell.
Imagine that an organization that brands conservatives and Christians haters and puts them on a map with chapters of the Ku Klux Klan works with the federal government, advising the administration on its domestic terror strategy. This Orwellian nightmare isn't a hypothetical. It actually happened under the Biden administration.
And I can tell you that we've had many agencies in the new Biden administration reaching out to solicit our expertise and our knowledge and information to help shape the policies that the new administration is adopting to counter the domestic terrorism threat.
That's Margaret Huang, president of the Southern Poverty Law Center, an organization that has long been notorious for exaggerating hate to raise money and for branding its ideological opponents, hate groups, on par with the Klan. As I explain in my book, Making Hate Pay, The Corruption of the Southern Poverty Law Center, the SPLC gained its reputation by suing Klan groups into bankruptcy, but then took the program it used for that purpose and weaponized it against conservatives, partially to raise money through fear-mongering and partially to silence those who oppose its far-left agenda.
And that's exactly what they did to me. When they tried to target, they literally targeted me. Just go on to Google or whatever your search engine is, type in SPLC and Franchi. You'll see. SPLC condemned Kirk's assassination, Tyler O'Neill writes, but I'm calling on it to put its money where its mouth is and remove Turning Point from the hate map. As of Monday morning, Turning Point USA is still there.
But we, of course, have been discussing the shocking assassination of Charlie Kirk that has stunned millions of Americans all across both the political and spiritual spectrum. And while the condemnation of this shooting has certainly been widespread, and thankfully it's come from both sides of the aisle, but nonetheless, we would be amiss not to note and underscore what fuels terrible actions like what took place yesterday. In a Facebook post, the Southern Poverty Law Center stated this: "We condemn the shooting of Charlie Kirk and all violence in any form. Our history shows violence only fuels division." All right, well, that's fine, but you know what fuels violence? Is hatred. That's what the scripture says, and Tony brought that up. If you hate in your heart even, angry, it leads to hatred, and hatred leads to violence. So when organizations like the SPLC add organizations like Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA on their hate map, look, the SPLC then becomes not part of the solution, but part of the problem.
Part of the problem. Responding to the assassination, Trump announced an investigation into Antifa. Antifa agitators embed in protests and then break off to riot. The 2020 riots caused about $2 billion in damage, took the lives of 26 Americans, including retired police chief David Dorn. Antifa is a loosely organized movement, but many rioters seem rather well prepared. Leftist groups seem to cultivate plausible deniability with Antifa, while some groups help organize protests that escalate into riots. So those groups don't actively call for violence. SPLC expanded the hate map, adding Moms for Liberty, PragerU, and Gays Against Groomers on their hate map. It brands Moms for Liberty, which trains moms to run for school boards, an anti-government extremist group, but doesn't say that of Antifa, which hurls Molotov cocktails at government buildings. Think about that. Moms for Liberty trains moms to run for school board. And they're on a hate map. But Antifa, which throws Molotov cocktails, is not. Absolutely insane. Richard Cohen, who resigned as SPLC president amid massive 2019 scandal, condemned Antifa in 2017. We oppose these groups and what they're trying to do, he said. He warned Antifa was contributing to the problem, but said Antifa doesn't engage in discrimination. Okay. Yet doesn't engage in discrimination. Yeah. Yet SPLC has carried water for Antifa since then. In 2020, SPLC attacked Trump for saying he would designate Antifa a terrorist organization. SPLC condemned Trump's move as unprecedented and alarming, minimized Antifa's violence as property crimes. How crazy. Property crimes. SPLC hires Antifa's secret weapon. In 2018, Wired profiled analyst Megan Squire as Antifa's secret weapon against far-right extremists. She didn't identify as Antifa, but passed info to those who might weaponize it. She worked at SPLC from 2022 to March of 2025. Antifa's secret weapon against far-right extremists. Megan Squire, an intelligence operative of sorts, passing along information to those who might put it to real-world use, like Antifa, who can weaponize it. That's Wired magazine. Here's another one. SPLC lawyer charged with terrorism. In 2023, police arrested Thomas Jurgens, an SPLC lawyer for domestic terrorism, at an Antifa riot involving Molotov cocktails. Apparently the case is ongoing. Here is his mugshot. Staff attorney at the Southern Poverty Law Center. Lovely. Tyler O'Neill says, I do not have evidence the SPLC supports Antifa, and the center has repeatedly condemned political violence. That said, its ideology is aligned. It has kept Antifa off the hate map, and both Squire and Jurgens raise questions. So SPLC now drawing a direct connection to Antifa. Speaking of Antifa, this happened in Italy just a few hours ago. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni recognizing Palestine as a sovereign state. In response, Antifa, the far-left group, riots in the streets, causing widespread destruction. Trump is right. Antifa is a major terrorist organization. Nothing to see there. Nothing at all. They're just, they're not discriminating against property at all, right? Give me a break. Property damage. Oh, they just do property damage. That's all they do. Oh, and let's see here. We have President Trump signed the order. Nick Sortor. President Trump set to sign an executive order designating Antifa a domestic terror organization. He says, arrest anyone who's bankrolling the terrorists. Chuck Todd, though, panicking over Trump designating Antifa a terrorist organization. Oh, boy, here we go.
Antifa, and it's going to be this executive order where they're going to try to create a new classification for anybody on the left who opposes Trump as somehow a member of Antifa and a terrorist.
Yes.
Like, this is coming. And I don't think we are fully... Now, I don't think there's any the problem. Like, I don't even know what Antifa is. I know what the definition of Antifa is, and I know
what the word means, but it's not.
You don't know what it is? Are we on the same planet? I mean, you just saw what they're doing in Italy, right? No. Do you see what they did after Trump got elected back in 2016 in Washington, D.C.? What about the Summer of Love? You don't remember that? Oh, that's right. It was mostly peaceful. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Correct. There is no group.
No.
And so, but what's dangerous is that by designating it, who's going to define who the group is? And if the Trump administration decides to say, you, George Soros, are a part of this group that I designated, and you're like, no, I'm not. And it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to then use that as some sort of potential opening. And I think that.
Oh, yeah, they will find the opening. They're going to follow the money. Because George Soros is funding all kinds of organizations. And then they filter it through shell orgs and all that other stuff. And they're going to find it. And all roads are going to lead back to Soros, I'm sure.
That's what's so extraordinarily dangerous about these designations.
Wow.
Like what he did with, look, he's sort of testing the theory of this case with what he's doing with Venezuela. And sort of designating this sort of, well, they're narco-terrorists.
Narco-terrorists.
And somehow it allows, by the way, he's using the AUMF.
Of course.
As their legal cover on this, which of course is just
20-odd years old.
So far removed from what the AMUF was meant to be. It's going to be this.
Oh, Chuck Todd, take a sip of your coffee, you smug bastard. Here's the press secretary earlier today in the James Brady briefing room.
Use their more. So what message does this White House have now to all Americans who feel like they are too afraid to express their beliefs, their values, their morals in the wake of such horrific violence?
I think the president has answered this, and I will leave it to his response, Monica, where he so beautifully said, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep speaking up. We have to keep speaking our mind. I know that's what Charlie would want us to do. And we have a right to free speech in this country. The president supports it. It is protected by our beautiful Constitution. And Americans should not cower in fear. They should rise up in courage to continue speaking the truth.
And despite what the media would tell you, yes, the Charlie Kirk assassin had anti-fascist messages on his bullets. What does that tell you? Who is he aligned with? Well, here's the press secretary on Antifa.
Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization. The president intends to sign that executive order very soon as it's drafted, as soon as today, later this afternoon. And this is something the president campaigned on because we have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa radical people across this country who subscribe to this group. And unfortunately, it's gone widely uncovered by many in the legacy media. It also went completely ignored by the previous administration. Not anymore. Not only, as you mentioned, were the bullet casings subscribed with Antifa mottos, if you will, in the heinous assassination of Charlie, but there have also been more examples than I could read off for you here in this briefing room today of violence from Antifa. I will just read a few. In July 2025, several members of an Antifa cell ambushed and opened fire on officers at an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, shooting one officer in the neck. Also in July 2025, 3 Antifa members were charged with assaulting a police officer during a violent riot outside an ICE facility in Portland, which for weeks prior had been under siege from the local Antifa terror cell. In February 2024, a transgender Antifa terrorist detonated an explosive device outside of the office of the Republican Attorney General of Alabama. In July 2023, Antifa members linked to abortionist group Jane's Revenge firebombed pro-life facilities and vandalized churches. In January 2022, a suspected Antifa member was arrested for bringing a pipe bomb to a pro-Trump event. In January 2021, an Antifa supporter threatened to shoot police officers and Trump supporters outside of the Florida State Capitol building. Again, I could continue to list many more examples for those in the room who don't believe this is a serious threat to American safety and our national security, but this administration knows that it is. That's why the president will be signing this order. And we will also be, most importantly, looking at who is funding Antifa and who is funding these other violent left-wing groups that we've seen perpetuate so much crime and mayhem across our country.
Follow the money. Right back to George Soros. Here is President Trump, something else he's looking into.
Shooter was transgender. Charlie's killer lives with a guy who's transgender. The Annunciation shooter was transgender. The Covenant shooter was transgender. Should the FBI be investigating transgender extremism?
We're looking at that, and it seems like, is that just a, what's the reason for it? Yeah, there seems to be something, but we're looking at it very strongly. Something seems to be going on, but you can't make that statement yet. We're looking at it very closely.
Looking at it very closely. Here is the U.S. attorney discussing the radical left.
Right now, can you just talk about the threat level right now against elected officials, against ICE officers, against people that are conservatives right now?
It's higher than ever. I was in the legislature before. It was just commonplace to receive threats. It's just become part of what's expected. But our agents, our men and women who did not sign up to run for office, they signed up to protect our communities, don't deserve this. Assaults against them are up over 1,000%. We filed almost 100 cases for either assault or interference. And the left continues to fuel this insanity, hysteria, that the federal government is somehow an illegitimate force and it's okay to oppose ICE. So what they do is they lay the gasoline and the matches out and they get people spun up and they hope that someone does what they want them to do, which is burn the place down because they can't get their way. And we're not putting up with it. And if you try that here, you'll end up in handcuffs.
President Trump about to put that fire out. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So the SPLC built its reputation destroying the KKK. Now they are protecting the new violent extremists, Antifa. They put Turning Point USA on their hate map next to Klansmen. Then months later, Charlie Kirk is dead. Coincidence? Their own lawyer gets arrested throwing Molotov cocktails. They hire people profiled as Antifa's secret weapon. They attack bombs at school board meetings while giving anarchists a free pass. This is not bias. This is complicity. They laid the gasoline. They provided the matches. They created the hit list. And now Trump has signed the executive order that changes everything. Antifa has now become officially what we've always known, domestic terrorists. The SPLC's protection racket ends today. So here's my question. Should organizations that harbor terrorists lose their tax-exempt status? Drop a yes or no in the comments. Let's continue the conversation. And remember, patriots wear their values. Grab your next news gear at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. It's linked down below.